Thank you, Gemma.
All right. I am pleased to call to order the April 30th, 2026 meeting of the Mayor's Council. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the Indigenous nations on whose treaty we are fortunate to live, work, and operate. Can I have a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda? It's
So
been
moved.
moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the public meeting minutes. It's been moved,
So moved. Second.
seconded. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. All right, we have one delegate today, so we'll turn it over to them. It's Nathan Davivich, and Nathan, you have 3 minutes.
So moved. Okay. Those in favor?
Nathan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Well, you can go ahead. You've got your 3 minutes to start now. Nathan, looks like have you joined by phone, Nathan? If you have, you just need to unmute. We may have lost. It's funny. Nathan's got a Zoom link here. Nathan, oh, we've lost him. Well, maybe while we're waiting for him to rejoin, Chair, you could
Yeah,
seek approval of the consent agenda.
yeah, we'll move forward, and if he comes back, we'll return to that item. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. It's there for our consideration. Does anyone wish to remove any item? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay, next item is the report of the chair. I do note that this is our first public meeting since December, which I know is longer than normal, but I think it reflects the position that we are in as a mayor's council in the region, which is wait and see. And let me explain that. It is exactly 1 year to the day that we have approved the 2025 investment plan. And I think all of us should rightly be proud of what we accomplished that day. After a lot of work by this group of mayors over that winter and spring, we managed to reach a unanimous consensus on an investment plan that required difficult decisions, but that also delivered important value for our residents. That includes the largest single year transit service increase since 2018, more funding for our municipalities to maintain and expand the region's major roads and bridges, and a pathway to build the first three BRTs in our region. I'm looking forward to the next report from the CEO on the new services that TransLink has delivered since our approval of that investment plan a year ago, because it's simply not enough, of course, for this body to approve plans. It's up to TransLink to take those plans and convert them into real service, and they have done that. What all this means is that although we took a big step forward a year ago, we've also passed the baton first to TransLink to turn those approved plans into real changes on our streets. And second, we also passed that baton onto the provincial and federal government. In the 2025 investment plan, the province committed to work with us in the lead up to the next investment plan in mid-2027 to finalize its capital funding support for the new transit projects that are identified in the Access for Everyone plan, and to authorize a new revenue source for TransLink to operate those new projects sustainably in the future. A year later, I understand that this work is ongoing, but until it's done, we continue to be in a wait and see mode. I know we all also eagerly await news on what funding our region will see from the CPTF in the federal government's realm. On our side, we're ready to go. We have a well-supported plan in Access for Everyone, TransLink working to complete the planning so that these new projects are ready to go when funding is in place. And it is now up to the federal and provincial government to make their own decisions on their commitment to support this much-needed transit expansion. Given the challenges facing our region, I know we all believe more than ever that we need to move ahead with the projects and service enhancements that are identified in the Access for Everyone plan, and we need to do so as soon as possible. I hope colleagues in Ottawa and Victoria will agree and can make the decisions that they need to make in order for this to happen. We have made good on our commitments, and it's now time for them to do the same to ensure that our region continues to be a great place to live, work, play, and do business. If I can have a mover for the report of the chair.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. There's no questions or comments. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next is the report from TransLink Management, and I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Actually, Chair, it looks like we have Nathan back on if we want to flip back to
Sure.
public delegates. I know everyone want to hear what he has to say. Okay, well, let's bring him in. Okay, Nathan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The projects and services.
Well, it's
Hello?
like Back to the Future. Okay, Nathan, if you'll have to turn off or mute the live stream, but the floor is yours.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Nathan Davidovich. I'm the editor of the City Hall Watch weekly alternative buzzer on sustainable transportation. I'm speaking on item 3.1.1, 2025 year-end transportation trend update. Well, in 2019, TransLink ridership was 271 million, or 100 rides per capita. In 2025, it was 237 million, or 75 rides per capita. Your CEO does not want you to know that information. The 3 years of COVID had affected ridership badly. However, many other transit systems have fully recovered from COVID, and many are way ahead of TransLink. Here, many mistakes were made and still being made by TransLink. Lots of waste in the $2.5 billion TransLink annual budget. Lots of items are not needed. We need to spend our money wisely. We will not fully recover for at least 5 years or more, depending on our very high transit fares. The 5% increase on Canada Day will lengthen that recovery. However, over the last 50 years, the BC government and municipalities have not provided proper funding for sustainable transportation. We can also blame the federal government. What should we do? We have to change directions. We cannot make changes when we have bad governance. So even if more money is invested in sustainable transportation, we will fail, as we do not have proper governance at TransLink. Yes, most of the blame will be on Kevin Falcon, who in 2007 change the governance of TransLink. Vancouver, with 50% of the regional transit ridership, has no politicians on the TransLink board. Back in 2007, Vancouver had 3 councillors on the TransLink board. Maybe the BC government will finally listen and make the changes they promised in 2017. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, so we're going to return now to the report of TransLink management, and I'll turn over to the CEO.
Great. Thank you, Chair and Mayors. Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. Before I begin, I just want to take a moment and recognize our local North Vancouver Capilano MP, Jonathan Wilkinson, who has just been named EU Ambassador, and his term begins this summer. And I just want to take a minute because as a minister and member of parliament representing our region, he's really been quite a champion for transit investment at the cabinet table and within government. And so I do want to thank him for his years of service and advocacy on behalf of British Columbians. As Chair West noted, exactly 1 year ago, this Mayor's Council approved the 2025 investment plan, and that was a critical move to really stabilize the system. And today I'm here to provide you all with an update on how this investment plan is becoming reality. As we all know, transportation investments, from bus service expansion to road investments, they are also economic investments. And by expanding reliable transportation, we're really unlocking job and high density housing opportunities, really building more connected communities. Next slide, please. The 2025 plan was really quite pivotal for our region, and as the chair noted, delivers our biggest bus service expansion since 2018. It advances bus rapid transit design, it adds HandyDART and West Coast Express capacity, and it boosts road network investments. It also provides relief on our most overcrowded routes and expands service to previously unserved areas, including industrial and transit-oriented communities. This plan keeps us afloat through the next year, providing the stability that we needed to keep the region moving. Next slide, please. To date, we've delivered more than 40% of committed service increases. And most recently, we've made improvements on 42 bus routes across the region, ensuring better access to jobs, shopping, and more beaches and parks so that people can get outside and really enjoy what our region has to offer. Notably, we've increased service on the 99B line, on Route 130 connecting Metrotown to Phibbs Exchange, and the 335 between Newton Exchange and Surrey Central, just to name a few. We're improving access to HandyDART services for our most vulnerable customers to help make sure they can get to medical appointments, work, or social events. And recently, this looks like more trips and more late night hours. These investments are making real, tangible improvements in your communities. Take Port Coquitlam, for example. Over the winter, we increased weekday service on routes that serve a number of schools in the area, ones that have historically experienced overcrowding and pass-ups. And as a result of these increases, up to 75% fewer riders are left behind on routes 171 and 172. That's a lot more kids getting to school on time, safely, and on transit. And this real difference for families is really why we can't slow down. This is more than just transit service. It's an engine that we know keeps our daily lives running, and it's momentum that I think is really worth protecting. Next slide, please. In addition to rolling out 140,000 service hours, we're also accelerating the delivery on new services, delivering real results to customers and communities sooner. And that includes expanding the R2 Rapid Bus from Phibbs Exchange all the way to Metrotown, vastly improving and reducing overcrowding between Burnaby and the North Shore in one of the busiest corridors in the region. Construction has already begun to upgrade bus stops along the extension route, creating an all-day, high-frequency, one-seat ride from Metrotown to Park Royal. And we know how important this connection is for customers, and that is why we accelerated work to deliver it early in September, 3 months ahead of schedule, alongside additional service increases on the 245, just in time for back to school, making commutes to SFU and Capilano University faster and easier. I do want to take a moment just to thank Mayors Hurley, Buchanan, Little, Sager, and Sim for their partnership on this work. Next slide, please. We are also fast-tracking new service to the Gloucester industrial area in the township of Langley, supporting direct transit access to over 7,500 jobs. We've significantly accelerated this brand new service, which will be hitting the road in September, a whole year earlier. This is thanks to some great collaborative work with both the township and city of Langley, and it's a perfect example of the tangible results that regional partnerships can deliver. So thank you so much to Mayors Woodward and Pahal for that partnership. Just last week, we released the engagement report. Participants really reaffirmed how important transit is to support workers and how something simple like aligning our start times with their shift times can make a really big difference. In addition to Gloucester, we've completed engagement on additional new service areas, further contributing to Metro Vancouver's economic growth. Added service for Tilbury, Campbell Heights, and Annacis Island industrial areas will help bridge gaps in transit access and get people to the thousands of jobs in these areas more quickly and more easily, adding value to businesses in your communities. Engagement recently wrapped up, meaning we'll be able to finalize what that service will look like and launch improvements soon. This kind of added service is what makes commutes shorter and days more seamless. It's the key to helping employers need to attract and retain staff in a really competitive market. And we've seen that when we do invest in transit access, workers benefit and businesses can grow and productivity really follows. And that investment is the only way to ensure our region doesn't just grow, but that it actually works for the people living in it. Next slide, please. The 2025 investment plan also brought Bus Rapid Transit into the next phase of design. Public engagement has consistently demonstrated strong support for all three corridors. We've heard that BRT is the right call for communities, with the vast majority telling us that these projects will improve transportation in their area. Along the Metrotown North Shore corridor work continues on BRT design to identify potential design options and the preferred route alignment. We recognize that improving connections to the North Shore is critical, and that's why we accelerated that R2 extension and why we keep pursuing additional measures to improve its reliability through BRT. We can plan for the long-term future of this corridor while also making meaningful improvements today. Council engagements on the recommended corridor designs are underway and progressing across Surrey, Maple Ridge, and Langley Township Councils over the coming weeks. That means that King George Boulevard BRT and Langley to Haney Place BRT are nearly ready to move into detailed design. But to take that next step and keep these projects on track, we do need clarity on senior government funding. We have community support and municipal alignment. Now we need financial certainty to turn design into shovels in the ground. Next slide, please. Finally, we're making investments that keep all road users moving safely and reliably. The investment plan significantly increased funding for pavement maintenance on the major road network by 70%, helping local governments address road deterioration, keeping goods and the economy moving. Next month, we'll be bringing forward a robust update on the performance of these investments. Next slide, please. As we implement these improvements, we're also keeping a close eye on the landscape around us. We've seen broader demographic shifts, short-term fluctuations in population growth and migration that have had a temporary stabilizing effect on ridership numbers. But at TransLink, we're not building for just a moment in time. We build for the next generation, and our long-term trajectory is still clear. In the past 5+ years, we saw one of the strongest post-pandemic transit recoveries in North America, and we experienced unprecedented growth on top of that. South of the Fraser, for instance, ridership is up about 20% above 2019 levels, a rate of ridership growth I don't think we've seen in our history. Each week, nearly 900,000 people, or the equivalent of 1/3 of Metro Vancouver residents, rely on us to get them where they need to go. Last year alone, that added up to more than 237 million trips across the system. And as the cost of living continues to rise, that reliance is only going to grow. Metro Vancouverites clearly see transit as the backbone of the region, using our system to get to work, school, or wherever life takes them. Next slide, please. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that transit investment must remain a priority. We need to look beyond bus service and recognize that we're building vital economic infrastructure. It helps improve household costs. It's the foundation for new housing. It's the bridge to a skilled workforce. And it's the way to keep our region competitive. A year ago, we made a series of bold promises. And as you've seen today, we are keeping them. We've shown that when we invest, the region benefits. I look forward to our continued partnership to ensure that this remains a place where our residents, our businesses, and our communities can really, truly thrive. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for all your time. I'm happy to take any questions. Back to you, Chair.
Hey, thank you very much, Kevin. Just open the floor to any questions or comments mayors may have. Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive the report?
Moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Thank you very much. Next report is from the Public Affairs Committee, and I'll turn this over to Mike Pluta.
Great, thank you, Chair. There's a report in your agenda package recommending approval of our draft budget submission to the House of Commons for the 2026 federal budget, as well as to endorse a joint submission we're preparing with the Toronto Transit Commission and the Greater Montreal Transit Agency, so that we can actually work jointly with them. I'm not going to go through all these slides. You have them in front of you, but the long and the short of it is the Canada Public Transit Fund that was promised in the 2020 federal election. It was funded in the 2021 federal budget as a permanent transit fund to provide long-term predictable funding. It committed to $30 billion starting in 2026, which is when the predecessor fund expired. It committed 2.2 billion. We've already seen $2.2 billion worth of announced allocations to us from this fund. So that's kind of the good news. On the less positive news, this fund before the last federal budget in last October was only 15% of the entire Access for Everyone plan, less than 15% of the phase one plan, the first 3 years of our 10-year plan. So before last year's budget, this was already going to be a fund that was at least half as large as it really needed to be to meet the needs facing our region, the needs that Kevin and the chair just went through around supporting new affordable housing, improving affordability, and supporting the economy. It was a fund that was too small. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, before the federal budget, we were advocating for that $30 billion fund to be expanded to provide closer to a federal share of our Access for Everyone plan. Unfortunately, the federal budget actually cut that fund by 17%. They took $5 billion from the Canada Public Transit Fund, the one that was created in 2021's federal budget that we had been planning on and looking for more money from. They took that $5 billion, they transferred it into the new Building Canada Strong Fund, where it's not going to be accessible to TransLink projects. It's going to be used to support, we think, DC cuts to development cost charges and/or provincial and territorial infrastructure. So we were hoping, even if the $30 billion fund wasn't expanded, that we would be able to expand our own allocation. That's no longer possible. So we're looking at $2.2 billion from that fund. If you match it with provincial and regional funding, we've already allocated sort of our regional share notionally through the 2025 investment plan. So if the province matches at their rate, it would provide $3.8 billion towards the 2027 investment plan. It's enough to get us started. It's not all that we need, but it's certainly enough to get it started. However, and as I think the chair noted in his opening comments, provincial matching hasn't been confirmed yet either. So what is our ask into this 2026 federal budget? Well, the first one is to restore at this first step, to restore the original $30 billion, to reverse that cut, and then to make sure that the funds that are there are accelerated and streamlined. Some of the administrative processes, even for parts of the fund which are meant to be streamlined, are actually very onerous. And then to make sure that this fund actually grows at the same rate as our costs grow, and frankly, as the same rate as our demand grows. That's actually one of the challenges with the way federal funding works, and why the Canada Public Transit Fund, even though it's 50% larger than the previous fund, is half of what we need. It's because between 2015, when the previous fund was announced, and 2021, when this fund was announced, and today, inflation has really eaten away at the purchasing power of this new fund. So this new fund, so first step, we need to restore the cuts. Second step is we need to make sure that it grows with needs. So we're coordinating all this with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as well as our peers in Toronto and Ottawa. That leads us to the recommendations here. I will just say in closing that although the federal government has clearly a role in ensuring that its contributions sort of match the demands facing our region, to match the demands to support federal and provincial housing targets and other objectives. The province actually plays a key role, and we'll be able to say more on that in the coming weeks. So, Mr. Chair, I'll pass the floor back to you.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Can I have a mover for the recommendations?
So
Moved and-
moved.
Moved and seconded. And any comments or questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right, that brings us to the end. And I'll take a motion to adjourn to closed session, please.
Move.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We'll just take a 5-minute recess.